Good afternoon. I'm Corporal Tracy Knight with the Public Affairs Unit, and I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you for coming. First, I'd like to introduce everyone in attendance. Police Chief Jeffrey Halstead will be making some remarks here in just a moment. Behind us here are the command staff for the police department. Also behind me is Mrs. Stella Lopez, mother of Sonia Baker, and Mrs. Karen Frito, widow of slain Officer Dwayne Frito, and their daughter Jenna. Also standing behind me is Rachel Escamilla, who is a representative from MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. We do have the Fort Worth Police Officers Associations are also in attendance. Chief Halstead will provide a statement about the recent DWI arrests of our employees, and then he will answer questions. After his statement, if the members of the media will please raise their hand, and you will be called on at that time. Once you're called on, if you would please state your name, the agency that you work for, and then ask your question. If you have a follow-up question, please raise your hand again. The chief is going to do his best to answer everyone's questions, so please be patient. At this time, I would like to introduce Fort Worth Police Chief Jeffrey Halstead.
Good morning. A little more than a month ago, we had our press discussion about a recent arrest of then Major Paul Henderson, and at that time, literally from that day forward, I started researching a lot of our success, and I really compliment our staff here in the police department on what we have done for 4 years to combat what I viewed as a very concerning trend when I first became chief here in Fort Worth. But after the December 1st arrest, I realized that we somewhere are not getting in touch with every single one of our police officers. So we reached out to them, and once again, we tried to find another creative solution. But when you look at the totality of all of these cases in the last 4 years, and there's been some numbers that have been posed, at first we released I think the number was 18. It was including all alcohol-related incidents. But when you take public intoxication and those offenses away from that, we're looking at 14 cases within the last 4 years. But since that time, and especially when I had the unfortunate opportunity to meet with Stella and her family, and we did our MAD walk, we needed to do something more, and we really focused on supporting our employees. We engaged in mandated alcohol awareness training. We also made available within our organization peer support, as well as the associations for the employees and where they belong, mentors, an honor code. We really drove home the point that this profession requires all of us to raise the expectations of level of service and commitment on and off duty. You think of the police chaplains and the Clergy and Police Alliance. There are a host of resources available to every one of our employees. At the same time, we were going through a formulation of a discipline guidelines process where we can work collectively, management and labor, to come across agreed upon and fair discipline standards for any incident, misconduct, or violation of policy, and that has been very successful. Still, after all that we have done in a proactive manner for the last over 3 years, we find ourselves standing again. And I'm in total agreement with our employees, with our citizens, stakeholders in the community, and most importantly, the survivors of those that were killed by drunk drivers. We've had enough. And the message that I'm delivering today is a realigned focus on how this organization will not tolerate this behavior. I'm really proud of the work within our Internal Affairs Division and the volume of cases that they have experienced since I became chief. We instituted the Special Investigations Unit, and a host of internal investigations have been generated, and they are doing an outstanding job. But I have met with their captain this morning, and I want them to place a re-enhanced focus on any future incident of DWI violations by our employees. We will continue to streamline these investigations with respect to any regulation, policy, or state law, but I am confident that if we have a new violation after today's date, that investigation will receive 100% attention by that investigator. It will make it to my desk faster, and as soon as it is on my desk, I will take immediate action. What frustrates a lot of our citizens, and I sympathize with their concerns because I field their calls and their questions when we have community forums, is sometimes the timeline it takes for these investigations is simply too long. We can make a decision on an internal or an administrative violation of policy, yet there could still be a pending criminal matter. And we could wait 6 months, a year, sometimes a year and a half, and then we have to come back after that criminal case is completed. And there have been cases in the last 4 years where an internal violation of policy, I have held off and submitted the appropriate paperwork to delay my decision. I will not be delaying my decisions any longer. Irregardless of how the criminal case will proceed, we will focus on those violations of policy as the most significant and the most important to get to my desk in a timely manner so that I can make my decision and we can move forward. If the investigations reveal the truth of the allegations from this date forward, every employee will be indefinitely suspended. What that means for our citizens, they will be terminated. They will not work in this police department any day after a sustained violation of DWI. I've received a lot of phone calls and text messages and support emails since December 1st. And we're an organization that's hurting. Public trust is the foundation of public service, and when these incidents occur, I know that our great citizens can question about this uniform, and that's what hurts many of our officers, soon-to-be officers, veteran officers behind me, everyone that wears this badge. We don't like these headlines, and we're going to mandate that they stop. Just like every employee in this organization, we have taken an oath. I want to strongly remind every one of our employees all of the services available to them. And if there is an employee out there that feels that they can drink in public and then they want to drive their vehicle and endanger our citizens, we took an oath to protect those citizens. And if you're going to endanger those citizens and we sustain your allegation of misconduct, I will fire you. I'm not going to wait to see how your criminal case is going to go through its proceedings. We are done with that. Our citizens deserve better, and especially those who have suffered the most that you could ever imagine as a loss. We need to do that for them. Out of respect for Mrs. Lopez, I really appreciate her being here. We had a conversation last night, and it was very refreshing to hear her voice, because this has been a struggle for all of us in leadership positions. And a sincere thank you. And out of respect for her, she has chosen that she did not want to address the media, and I am just so thankful that we have her support. And after our conversation last night, we will continue to keep Sonia in our thoughts and prayers. I'm happy to answer any questions. Yes, sir?
Chief, is it true the policy used to be every officer in DWI was automatically fired, and you changed it to consider each case individually? Do you think that that at all contributed to this number growing, to this problem?
Well, for the first part of the question, within the last 4 years, when I first came here, there were a host of investigations on my desk, and the trend across the country was not as severe as some of the discipline cases that were awaiting my review and approval. So I had to learn the entire Texas, not only Chapter 143, but also review the contract. What I wanted was more of an understanding, because we did have some individual cases where there were a multitude of personal matters involved in their lives, and we wanted more support services on the front end and not at the reactive end. So a combination of some cases, they were immediately fired. Some cases were 30 days suspended without pay, but it was the timeline that frustrated me. I didn't like the fact that we were waiting for a criminal case to be concluded. I'm not going to wait for that any longer. And my message is very, very strong to every employee in this organization, sworn or civilian. You cannot drink and drive any longer unless you want to throw your career down the drain, because I will not tolerate it. And when I get that case, if you are sustained of that allegation, you will not be working in this organization. So I don't think that the mandatory suspension and or case-by-case review had an impact. This is a significant trend that I'm seeing across the nation. I just want it to stop in our city. Our citizens deserve more.
Chief, what about the previous cases? I mean, we have the two most recent, but there are still a couple of employees who are working in the department who have pending criminal investigations. What do you do about those?
Yeah, I'm getting briefed by Internal Affairs on the ones that should be reaching my desk soon. From the date forward statement, I want to make it clear because it does have some legal complications. 1-3 of 1-3, from this date forward, all those future ones are going to have this realigned approach of severity for those allegations. The ones that are pending, with the faith that I have in our process and our relationships, I'm going to review those as a case by case. But I should warn every single one of those employees, they're going to be a much stronger reaction from my desk on those cases. But in all fairness, I want to read those cases first, because I know the public is fed up with this. I know our employees are severely fed up with this. And as the one person responsible for the entire organization, I am done dealing with this, and they need to raise their standards of conduct on and off duty. Other questions?
Chief, what difference does it make if you handle a case? If they're found in violation of DWI, they're out anyway.
Right. A good case. First year, there was one case that came to my desk, and I responded to that investigation before the criminal case was heard. When the criminal case was heard, it was actually learned in court that it was basically a bad arrest, a false arrest. That did have an impact on my decision for the administrative violation of policy because of the criminal proceeding. So that's why I tried to do that case by case by case. Some have no criminal going forward. It was an allegation we found out about, and there was no arrest or a criminal case proceeding, and we find out about those. So every case is different. I looked at every one of these 14 cases. I cannot find a similarity within conduct or performance or personal matters going on in their lives or their assignments or their age or duration or tenure, seniority. There is no commonality with any of these cases. So that's why, out of fairness, the case-by-case was the best approach, so you don't make a sweeping. But now it's to the point where every one of these cases will come to my desk in a more efficient manner, and then I'll make that decision immediately instead of waiting for criminal.
Chief, Chuck Shepard.
Yeah, Chuck.
Are you saying that these officers fired even if there's no arrest?
Yes, sir. That's what I'm saying. And we've had some of those incidents. We've had a public intoxication arrest and some other incidents where, a public intoxication allegation where there was no physical arrest, but those employees have been terminated in the past. But really focusing on the fact of DWI, the majority of those cases always involved an arrest.
Chief, what about the prevention methods that you have talked about in the past, the partnering with, a confidant within the department? And I've heard about, taxis for someone who may, have a problem or have been out and drank too much. Do those things go away?
No, not at all. In fact, we're going to maintain the same focus we have on those support programs, because all of our employees deserve those programs and those services within any organization or any profession, whether you're public safety or not. So those are great resource programs for us. I still will continue to research some other national proactive programs or services that maybe some other agencies have had success with, and we'll evaluate their implementation here. But just counting up the immediate services available for our police officers, it's over a dozen. And if some of these are not utilized, I really cannot help them any further. We have extended, by all means, if you compare Fort Worth with any other major city in the nation, we have more service components and service capabilities for every employee. And we're still finding these instances occur, and that's what's most frustrating.
Is there an officers if, you know, they're out and they've had too much to drink? I don't even know what that program is. Is that available to them?
Yeah, that was actually hosted by the Fort Worth Police Officers Association, and I think it was called the Free Cab Ride Home program, and that was started shortly after we had the tragedy with Sonia Baker. And they stepped forward and offered that program as an independent service, in addition to all the ones internally available in the police department.
If somebody admits that they're drunk, they take that service, they're not going to be fired?
Yeah, we list that as a police officers association service capability, and what they do for their members is just a member services agreement. If they are a danger to themselves or other, they could be an allegation of public intoxication. That's independent of them getting services and treatment. We just want them to take advantage of those services. They should get home safely. Them driving their own vehicles is not the answer, and that's what we're not tolerating. I think I have one question here.
NBC5. Can you talk about your personal reaction to these cases? What's it been like for you personally as the leader of the department?
You know, right after we dealt with Sonia's death, that was the most troubling. I never experienced that in 22 years of police work. I never saw it, never heard of it. And to happen within your own organization, it hurts. You know how much pain the family's in. They're still in pain today. And the fact that one of our employees did that, and then you have incident over incident over incident, and you have all of these services available, because our employees are amazing. They do great work. They serve our citizens like no other community in the nation. And then we still have an incident. It's probably one of the most frustrating things I've had to deal with in my profession, and I'm not aware of any other organization that had so many programs available, yet still having these incidents occur. So we've seen positive trend reductions in other concerns we have in the organization. We haven't experienced to the level that makes me successful here, and that's what's frustrating for all of us. We don't want these incidents to continue.
Chief, what happens now to Ramirez as far as, is he being offered any services now? I mean, now that he's on restricted duty, and what is the timeline going forward
Yeah.
as far as his investigation?
Yeah, can't speak, I haven't been briefed on any of that. You know, it just started yesterday, but he is on a restricted status, which means he does not have his gun and his badge. He is removed from the traffic division, so he's in an administrative assignment. And all of those resources and services are available to him, and a lot of services that are available through whatever association he has with an employee group. He also could, you know, seek services through his church and family. But we remain supportive of the individual because, remember, the arrest is not the finalization of our internal case. We have to have a true focus on administrative violations, bringing them to my desk. So they're just in a restricted status, no law enforcement capabilities whatsoever until the decision is made at my desk, and then that decision is final. Anyway.
One more question.
I'm sorry.
Chief, I can imagine some people at home after hearing about this so frequently would wonder why, how is it a police officer can do this and then someone who's in the traffic division, after knowing what happened so many years before the people have died. I mean, why is it happening? Is it the stress of the job? What is it?
That is probably frustrating, not just myself, but everyone in this room. We have really made a truly centrally aligned effort to provide so much education and training and awareness and support that there's no excuse for this to continue to occur. And then when I received the notification very early yesterday, we only made it through one day in 2013 when this newly pledged promise of a sacred bond, officer to officer, you make a commitment to your best friend. This is your backup, the one that could save your life. You will promise to them, I'm not going to make a headline for this organization. I am raising my standards today. And one day is all we got through that year. I have never been more frustrated in 24 years of doing this job than yesterday. And I just want our supportive citizens to know we agree with them. This is enough. None of us want to see this headline again. But they can rest assured, if we do have one in the future, I'm going to deal with it in a much more efficient manner, and it'll be dealt with a very, very strong decision. So we are struggling to figure out the why, because there is no common cause in any one of these cases. So we don't have a trend analysis for us to address a specific personnel issue that we see that is literally within the organization. They're so independent of one another. So I don't have an answer as to why. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you coming out in such short notice. Very, very important topic for us as well as a community. So thank you so much.